Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today, sitting down to talk about a topic that you all know is near and dear to my heart. That's right, the status of the Fallout license. What better time to pick up this discussion than the beginning of a new year, taking a bird's eye view at everything happening beneath the Fallout IP, or really lack thereof. The title of today's video may seem a bit familiar to some who keep a close eye on this channel. We posted a video about half a year ago titled The Future of Fallout. And in that video, we talked about how no matter how much activity in the form of a new TV show or Fallout 76 update occurs for the Fallout license, that it feels more dead than ever. And reading the comments, seeing the reception of the video to likes and dislikes, as well as the viewer count, suggested to me that this was a pretty agreeable discussion. I moved into a Fallout 76 re-review where my thoughts had developed and changed over time with where the Fallout license was heading as a whole. But I didn't feel like that video, which we released a couple of weeks ago, was the right place to talk about things. And then I saw a couple of trailers for Fallout 76. I saw some news break for the Fallout license. And I also watched some Star Wars. And all of these triangulate into today's discussion. So there will be a bit of build up before I get to my true talking points. Please do bear with me. You all know how much the Fallout license means to me, so I do mean well with this, although a lot of people think suddenly I despise Bethesda and Fallout for whatever reason. But if you're new here and you're interested in Fallout and Bethesda, consider subscribing. We talk about them a lot here. So, like I said, Star Wars played a pretty big factor in the spark plug to being today's discussion. I think it's important as a warm-up to my real points here. Last night, I'm lying in bed watching The Book of Boba Fett, which is a great show, by the way. I've been really digging it. I love that Boba Fett's like a real true face of Star Wars now, and not just this cool bounty hunter that you get to learn about in comics. And then the movies just get rid of him like way too quickly. Anyway, back to my talking point. I'm watching this, and I'm thinking to myself, what's so cool about this is there's probably hardcore Boba Fett fans out there who finally get to see him get his due, right? And then I started thinking a bit deeper on it. I was like, well, there are people who don't like these episodic shows and everyone becoming the character of their own show. We're getting an Ahsoka show. We're getting the Boba Fett show. You know, same thing's happening with Marvel. Everyone's getting their own shows and it becomes saturated. And some people want to pull out of that. So there are, say, the movies. But the movies sort of got mired towards the sequel trilogy. It's like, maybe pull out of that. Then they're offering the animated shows like Clone Wars, Bad Batch, Visions. They're also offering the games. If you don't like those, then they're offering the books, which explore parts of the universe that we don't really see on any of the screens. And if you don't like that and you need them visualized, then there are comics. And ultimately, it's this hierarchy of entertainment that I feel like every brand should be in a lot of ways. Now, I'm not talking about the quality of production because I know Star Wars has some issues, but in the terms of having something to offer to everyone across different facets of entertainment is super important for very popular IP. So I was looking at the Book of Boba Fett and I was thinking suddenly of Fallout and I was like, wow, I wonder why Bethesda hasn't explored expanding this IP in a number of ways. So I'm not asking directly for Fallout to be Star Wars, but where my head started to carry me a little bit was not in the direction that we have talked about a lot on this channel. I'm definitely guilty of it, which is Fallout 3 New Vegas remaster, bring them back. It's easy money, we just want this thing. Really what I was thinking about was how rich and dense this entire world space is and how much of it is unexplored, with also taking a look at the lay of the land with Bethesda Game Studios with Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6 being their next two games, and how based off a recent interview at IGN with Todd Howard, they don't really have any plans to relinquish the Fallout brand. So it will lie dormant outside of Fallout 76 and seemingly this upcoming Amazon TV show for maybe almost a decade, which just doesn't seem sustainable. And I was looking at, again, the lore. I was combing through the wiki. I was reminiscing on characters like Nick Valentine. I was thinking of Harold. I was thinking of all these important characters and places that we don't really know much of in Fallout, or characters we do know a lot about, like Nick Valentine, that have a really interesting backstory. What if that was visualized in a comic? And I really thought to myself how Fallout is missing such an important beat here in growing their brand. Like, they've done it on a game front, right? They did the big AAA game with a mobile game. The mobile game exploded, which then bled into the AAA game and made Fallout this big mainstream entertainment IP. But then Bethesda just, I feel, has mishandled it from there. And I'm not even talking about doing Fallout 76. We'll talk about that separately in a moment. But really, the true expansion of this IP, they hit the brakes on it. No, say, new mobile games, which was working for them, which I'm not really asking for, but no books, no comics. There is one comic for New Vegas that came out when the game launched. But beyond that, the fact that there's no expanded material for Fallout baffles me. It really does. Because again, I look at Halo even. Halo is such a rich world that is explored thoroughly through the books. And I just don't know how Fallout isn't even in that space yet. And it seems like Bethesda's playing a game a little bit of copycat, right? Now we're seeing them jump into the TV show space. I don't know about y'all. I don't know what exactly a Fallout show will do for me. I'm definitely interested in it. We will definitely be talking about it on the channel later this year as production has begun. So we'll see likely a trailer by the end of this year. And that'll be interesting to see how that's going. Like, who are the main characters? Is it a Wastelander story, or is it based around one of the primary characters that we know from Fallout? Like, what exactly are we going to see from this? That remains to be seen, so I'm not really judging it for what it is. But I just know that Fallout, of course, functions best as a game, but the world is rich enough and the characters are deep enough to have shows based around them, to have books and comics based around them. So that was really where the thought process for me started with all of this, was looking at Star Wars, and I feel like they have a great template that should be followed by a lot of big popular IP, something like Fallout. So then I started to look at the game side of things, where there is, I'd say, more activity to some extent. And I looked at Fallout 76, given that's the only living, breathing thing we have for Fallout and video games, and that's where my 2021 review came in. But as I dropped that, because for those who don't know, I created that as a Patreon video that released early to the audience. So that was produced for a while. Come December, I caught wind that the roadmap for Fallout 76 in 2021 had altered to a significantly different event in the winter, where it went from what you see here, which is Tales from the Stars, 4-star legendaries, seasonal event The Ritual, and Invaders from Beyond public challenge and daily ops surprise, to a Reddit thread being posted saying 2021 roadmap silently updated, which now changed it to Night of the Moth for the winter event with, again, 4-star legendaries and a seasonal event called the Mothman Equinox. Not only that, but they got rid of camp pets and then replaced it with Pip-Boy colors, legendary loot sharing, and local looting as quality of life enhancements. What happened when I caught wind of this so late is I searched high and low. Like, I was looking for updates on Bethesda.net. I was looking for tweets, comments from developers, and I couldn't find anything. I was kind of baffled. They made a pretty, I thought, noteworthy, not significant, mind-blowing, but a noteworthy change to the roadmap, and they didn't say a word about it. And even something like Fallout Worlds, for a lot of people, I noticed kind of under-delivered because it's not adding what the game needs, which is content. And it's that lack of communication that really pushed me over the edge to make this video here today, because I view it as pretty inexcusable that a live service game doesn't update the fans, investing time and especially money into the product to keep it moving. It's a two-way street big time with this type of genre. And Bethesda not saying anything said the most to me. What I mean by that is, look, I like the Fallout 76 community a lot. A lot of people within it are sweet, and they are very protective of their baby, so I know many of them will be incensed by what I have to say in this video, especially this here and now. As nice as the Fallout community is, I gotta say, Bethesda's not happy with how this game has not grown. And so they're not gonna give it attention, and they're not gonna prioritize you as a community. And honestly, the Fallout 76 community specifically has convinced themselves that this is a big, booming, thriving product because Wastelanders was kind of solid. But when you look at something like the Steam player charts, it capped out at barely 8K in 24 hours. And then you look at Fallout 4, which in a smaller window doubled that. You look at Skyrim, which is more than 3 times that. Fallout 76 isn't growing, and that's sad to say because it's a service game. It should be growing over time, but games from 7 years ago, games from a decade or so ago are doing way better than the current thing. So that's why they're not updating you, and it's why exactly that they decided to take predatory monetization practices into this game to get everything out of it that they can and pretty much use the loyalty of the Fallout 76 community against them. It's why instead of getting the brand new content for your game, they announced Dr. Zorbo's Revenge, which, as you see in the background, gives you a plethora of new things to buy, to spend your money on, and not the content that makes the most sense for the game itself. It's only moves that make sense for Bethesda. And it's not up to me to decide what's right and wrong with that. If it's your money, go ahead, spend it how you want. But just know, I think it's pretty clear from the outside looking in, you're being taken advantage of. You know, they do the Battle Pass, they have the Fallout First subscription service, and then you've got the Atomic Shop, which, again, completes this ugly trifecta of monetization in this game, where when I look at the treatment of the fans, and I'm not trying to be some savior here, because I know if you're just enjoying the thing, whatever, you go ahead and enjoy the thing. But when I look at the treatment of the fans and the monetization for the game, and then you look at something like Elder Scrolls Online, which treats its fans way better, which its announcements are bigger events, which people will happily, by the way, pay for content, it starts to speak to me like Bethesda understands where this license is at, quietly, mind you. I mean, I don't know how many people have actually paused for a second and thought to themselves what the internet's reaction, what gamers' reactions as a whole would be if Bethesda said, we're charging you for Fallout 76 content. There's a reason why it's so heavily monetized. It's because they're smart. They know a lot of people likely won't pay for it. There is a chance they show something cool and we do want to pay for it, but they're more focused on getting the money out of the people who are in love with the game. And how do you do that? You offer them meaningful mechanics in Fallout First. And if you find value in that, then it's not up to me to tell you, hey, don't buy this. But really what I'm looking at is a grim future where the one active product is, I feel, trying to bleed its fans dry. And then the future beyond it in expanded material, like a show we don't really know much of. We'll see how that develops. We don't have books, comics. We don't know the future of games, which I think does need to be clarified. I do think there needs to be some type of statement on it. Like, we're just going to continue to support Fallout 76. If that's it, that's it. That's much easier to understand. But if there's going to be more, I understand that the video game industry functions differently from the, say, movie industry, where, you know, movies, they'll drop a new Spider-Man movie and go, we're working on the next one, we'll see you in 2026. It's like, Jesus, I didn't even go to the theater yet, man. So I get that. I'm not asking for that. But at this point, there's a lot of moving pieces within Bethesda, Xbox, a big brand here. Bethesda, of course, as we talked about ad nauseum, has places where the license would thrive with, I'd say, direction, In Exile, Obsidian, but they're working on their own projects. So it's kind of caught between a rock and a hard place where we can see how this can thrive, but Bethesda's not taking action. So I'm of the mindset that we need to know what's going on with it. And also that if we're not going to get anything, like at least books and comics, I just don't know how that hasn't been tackled yet. I mean, I can tell you already with the amount of mod authors there that do such great work with it, that handing off this license and having people write stories for it would be a great thing for Fallout. So I can only hope that that's a direction they take it in. I know not everyone's into comics and books like me, but I think it's almost a necessary step forward, because how cool would it be, like with so many other franchises we've experienced, to read something in a book, to see something in a comic, and then see them appear in the game, in the show. Think of episode 2 of Book of Boba Fett, a little comic character making an appearance from Darth Vader 1 in that episode. Pretty cool, right? And I feel like that's something that Fallout could absolutely do. But I've rambled enough. I've gotten my thoughts out. And hopefully a lot of people see where I'm coming from. It's not to whine or bitch and say like, oh, Fallout's terrible now. But it's really more so to say where it could be and how long they've had to get there, right? Like Fallout kind of peaked in 2015. You'd think by now we would have had something else beyond Fallout 76 outside of video games. It's very surprising that we haven't. So hopefully I've put that into perspective for a lot of people. I don't know how many folks are going to like the Star Wars analogy, because I know a lot of people don't like Star Wars, but I wanted to speak about what connected me to this discussion most. So with that, enough from me. Pass it off to you. Let me know your thoughts. Do you agree? Maybe disagree? Let me know in the comments down below. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. And a big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who continue to support the hell out of the content here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.